you, thank you, thank you, Anybody else's? I got everybody's. All right, if you want to go ahead and temper your phones while we're doing this, you guys can listen to music while you're doing your individual stuff. But while we're doing this, I'd prefer if you didn't. So this is just your very basic revising and editing stuff. You guys remember, if you see a passage on an ACP, on you guys don't take a start, on a test or mini marker or whatever you have, if the sentences are numbered, that is revising and editing. That's like your absolute number one cue. So always be looking for grammar, spelling, stuff like that. If every single sentence is numbered. So moving to number one, what is the most effective transition to add to the beginning of sentence 6? I saw most of you doing this, which makes me very happy, but you always want to go back to the text, to the section that they're talking about, to analyze your answer. I used to see a lot of my kids just like circle an answer with a guess, and that's not what we want. But most of you guys turned back to the text to answer it, which was a really good thing. So we have sentence 5. Most people think if they are tired when they first wake up, they must need more sleep. Sentence 6, they are mistaken when they conclude that any sleep is good sleep. These two sentences are saying opposite things, meaning that we need an opposite sounding transition word. Do you guys remember where we put transition words in sentences? At the beginning. It is not a ultra super sound writing practice, but on these types of tests, always, always, always at the beginning, followed by a comma. Yeah, always at the beginning, always followed by a comma. So, number 1, what did you guys say? Silence. D? D? Did anybody put not D? No? Great, because that's the right answer. This one was pretty easy. I want to skip to number 3 because there's also not much debate about number 3. Sort of the same thing. You have one sentence. We go back to sentence 17 and see, having to get out of bed and turn it off changes the likelihood of hitting the snooze button. Based on context, we know that it lowers the likelihood of a person, hitting a snooze button when they wake up in the morning. So our best answer is going to be what? D. Also D. The one where I've had some debate in my previous classes is number 2. Do we have anybody say F? Nobody. Nobody said F? G. One? Couple? Maybe some G? H? Several H's and J. 1 J? Alright, so we have 3 out of 4 answers. Why did you say J, Cassandra?
Because the next paragraph talks about
Just circadian rhythms. Alright, so we see circadian rhythms in answer choice J.
That's why I chose H though.
Okay, so we'll get there in a second. So we see circadian rhythms in answer choice J, and we know that the next paragraph is going to be about those circadian rhythms. We see the words in both. That is not a terrible strategy for test taking. Literally just look at the words that appear twice. Right? So that's not terrible for J. What about G? We had a couple G's, right? I think. Did you pick G? Why did you pick G? Okay, so we have context from before in sentence 11, and then we have some more information being added in with sentence G to like further bolster the argument, right? It does seem to fit, but it is not a transition, right? It adds more information, but it's not a transition. So the correct answer for this one is H, for 2 reasons. Number one, if we're looking for a transition sentence, we want to take, in this case, sentence 11 and sentence 12, and basically cut them in half and glue them together. Right? We're kind of looking for like some hybrid Siamese twin style sentence that is formed between the two. Okay, so sentence, answer choice H, we're already talking about sleepiness. So that's kind of our first half, and then the next paragraph is talking about those circadian rhythms, and so we can kind of mush those together, and that creates an effective transition from one paragraph to the next. Is anybody confused on that? Before we move on to our next thing. We're good? All right, cool. I will come around and collect those white papers in a sec. Actually, if you guys could pass me to the front of the road, that would help me out a lot. Does anybody need a book and not have one under their desk? A couple of you might. Most of you probably need one. Whoa, dear. Whatever, they're durable. We're getting new ones next year anyway. How far do you need one? Mariah needs one. Do you two gentlemen need one? Lorenzo has one. Yes. One for you, sir. One for you. Mariah, you need one? Alright, so we are going to be working with a, I guess, literary device. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but it's a writing style, I guess, called ambiguity. Have you guys heard the term ambiguous before? Ambiguous? So if, Isaiah, if something is ambiguous, what is that like? What does it mean? Okay, I have a lot of students who have heard that word before and might know it in context but don't know what it means. Anybody? Does anybody know what ambiguous means? Gentlemen, can I have your phones away just for the next? Ambiguous.
I've heard it, but
Like, up for debate.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, so up for debate is close. That's close.
So like being argumentative.
No, not quite. Something that is ambiguous is something that is unclear. Right? So if I give ambiguous instructions, that means that I'm not doing a good job as a teacher, because it means that you guys have no idea what you're actually supposed to be doing. Right? If I just handed you a book and said, read the story, that would be incredibly unhelpful, because you wouldn't know which story to read and you wouldn't know what to do with the information that you read there. Right? It's very ambiguous. Very direct instructions is, please turn the green 12th grade literature books to page 1230, read The Demon Lover, and complete the sheet that I am going to pass out to you while you are reading, which coincidentally is what I'm doing. Yeah, it is 1230. Right? So the difference between those two instructions makes all the difference, because you guys know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. The first was very ambiguous, the second was very clear. Some authors, particularly in fiction stories, will use ambiguity, which is the noun form of that word. Something is ambiguous. Ambiguous is the adjective, ambiguity is the noun. Authors will use ambiguity to build suspense. Right? So an example in this story, I believe it's on the first page, our character is doing something and the author says that no human eye is watching her perform this action. No human eye could take one of two interpretations. Yep, 1230, 1230. It could take one of two interpretations. Right? No human eye could mean nobody, as in nothing. Right? Nothing's watching her, she's all alone. Or it could be no human eye, as in no human eye, implying that no people are watching her, but that something else is. We have no idea of knowing which it's supposed to be, because the author doesn't tell us. Over the course of the story, those things are made more clear, but at the time that it's written, we don't know which it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to get for you here in a second is this worksheet has 5 examples on the left side of things that could be ambiguous or that have ambiguity.
What did you say again?
Huh?
Not clear.
Yeah, like vague, unclear, or open to multiple interpretations.
Okay.
So the things on the left have some ambiguity about them. They are ambiguous. What I want you to do is go through the story. I suggest you read the whole thing first to get some context, and then provide two explanations on the right side as to how each is possible. Right? So for example, the first one is how the mysterious letter arrived. There are a lot of ways that a letter could arrive at your door. Right? In Harry Potter, they're carried by owls. At your house or apartment, they're probably carried by mailmen. It could be carried by the wind. You could stuff it in a bottle and throw it in the ocean. There are a lot of ways for letters to be delivered.
A bird.
A bird. Carrier pigeon. Yeah, like there are a lot of ways for letters to be delivered. In this story, it is unclear as to how, but there are a couple different more plausible ways, right? In this story, it's not going to be a carrier pigeon. I will go ahead and say that outright and not write that down as an answer. Normally, you can narrow it down to 2 or 3 things. I want you to write 2 possible interpretations for each thing on the right side of the worksheet. Is that clear? Cool. So this story is 5-ish.